Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking out today's video. I get asked this question on a daily basis via the YouTube comments or my Instagram DMs almost every single day. And it's a lengthy answer to that question. And so I've kind of been giving people short answers because I don't really know how to sum it up. So I figured I'd just make a video, and then when everyone asks me, I can just send you the link to the video. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are curious and just haven't asked. There's quite a few new things with the VB chassis. One of them being that this is now on the Subaru global platform, and I will get into that, but let me just talk about the differences because that's what you're here to see and my thoughts on them. So the VA chassis going to the VB chassis, what is there to talk about? Well, let's talk about stock for stock, because it would be unfair for me to compare my old STI swap 400 horsepower WRX to this thing. So let me just start there. I've driven enough stock VA chassis, including my old one, and I've had 3 of them. And I have not driven yet a modified VB. Mine is modified, but it's still making stock power. The VA chassis compared to the VB chassis, obviously there's a few differences. We've talked about them already. We now have the aluminum turbo inlet that is heated by the coolant lines. We have a larger, what appears to be a larger top mount intercooler. We have the electronic boost control solenoid, the electronic wastegate. It's obviously a 2.4 now instead of a 2.0. It's finally on the Subaru global platform. And then the entire body is different. So there are some carryover parts, but not as many as you would suspect. It's actually quite different. However, when you get into the VB chassis, it feels so familiar. It feels like the car you know and love from Subaru. It's got its rattles, it's got its vibrations, it's got its jerkiness, it's every quirk that a Subaru normally comes with, you still have it. Okay, so it feels like you're right at home. It feels like you're in a Subaru because of the shit quality. Don't get me wrong, I love Subarus, but they don't really care too much about luxury or making the car quiet, ride really smooth, everything else. But let me tell you, I love this car. I really do. Going from the VA to the VB, the biggest difference I notice is the handling. And not a lot of people talk about that. It seems like everyone talks about rev hang and stuff like that, which I'll get into. But the handling, this thing is insane. My fully modified VA chassis WRX did not handle nearly as good as this stock WRX does. At stock height, stock wheels, stock tires, stock suspension, this thing would out-handle. Now, if we put them on a track side by side and raced them, I really don't know, but it definitely feels like this thing handles a lot better. It seems like it stays flat. There's way less body roll in the stock form at this massive monster truck height. That is pretty impressive. One thing that I don't like about this going from the VA, I think they're the same brakes, I really do, but I was spoiled and I had the performance package and had Brembo brakes on my old VA chassis. These brakes are terrible. So I would definitely suggest, if you're upgrading power, do pads and rotors on it. Another big thing that I noticed going from the VA to the VB was, again, the rev hang. We just talked about that. The VA had quite a bit of rev hang. When you'd be up in the RPM range and you'd push the clutch into switch gears, it would just hang there for a little bit. And I think it was to aid new manual drivers into learning how to shift or something. I don't know why they did it, but it was just too much. And when I got in it, I expected that, and it wasn't there, which was really nice. Another thing that they got rid of, or they changed, is the rev limiter. And I didn't talk about that in my video of all the things I hate about this car, but that is one thing that I don't like. The VA chassis, I believe rev limit went to what, 70? It might have been 7,500 or something like that. I forget. I'm having a brain fart. But this thing only goes to 6,000. And it seems like that might not be a big difference, but it really is. When you're trying to row out through the gears in this car, you hit that rev limiter so quick. So that's a big learning curve, which I think tuning is going to, if it's not already, I think tuning is probably going to change that. Might be able to raise the rev limit on it a little bit. This car feels faster and pulls harder than my VA did in stock form. The boost comes on a little more linear. The boost just kicks in, and as you guys know, it's a lot less boost to make the same power as a VA. And I say the same power, yeah, I know it's a little bit more, but not much more. But the way the power curve is, that's why this in stock form will beat a VA in stock form. Not necessarily that extra horsepower, but I think it's the power band, how it comes on, and the consistency of it. So the VA chassis, you would floor it and you get like this real quick boost spike, and then the boost would just tank and you would lose all power and it felt awful. In the VB chassis, you don't have that. you floor it and it's pretty consistent boost all the way through the rev. Now, going from a modified VA to this, what am I noticing? Well, this thing is slow. It is dog shit slow. Wow, I mean, there's Toyota Camrys that'll beat this thing. It's not that bad. It really isn't. When you get behind the wheel of one and you drive one in stock form, it actually does pretty good for itself. But going from a 400 wheel horsepower WRX, it's just nowhere near the ballpark. But this is where things are good. This is where things are good for this car, and that is that this thing has so much potential. This 2.4 liter is putting out pretty good power already, and it makes a lot of power really quickly and really easily on a couple bolt-ons and a tune, which is impressive. And if you do an E30 to E50 mix, people are seeing 450 wheel horsepower on these cars with an aftermarket J-pipe, downpipe, and catback with some E30 in it. It is insane. The VA chassis on a E30, E60 tune, I think people were making about 330, 350 wheel horsepower on that setup, and people are making 100 horsepower more almost with this, and that is all thanks to the new 2.4 liter, which is kind of crazy. But that's kind of comparing apples to oranges there, talking about a modified VA and a stock VB. I think in a modified form, the VB is going to be a better platform also. There's less fuel limitations. They're still there, but I think they're a little bit higher. You're not hitting those fuel limitations as quickly as you were with the VA. So I think customization, this thing is going to knock it out of the park. And I think a stock engine, not built, full bolt-on VA will get absolutely smoked by a stock, unbuilt, full bolt-on VB any day of the week. That's just the way that I think. That's what it looks like, and that's what we're seeing evidence to us every day when these are getting tuned. I can't wait to get mine fixed up, get it tuned, and start making some power, because I really miss having that power that I had in my VA. Funny enough, I was going to get an Elantra N. When I crashed the WRX, I was going to get an Elantra N. I was going to walk away from Subarus, and I just couldn't do it. I know I told a lot of you guys that I was planning on getting something different, but I never got to tell you what it was. So it was the Elantra N. I test drove one, and it's a really nice car. It's really sharp looking. The interior is really nice. Hyundai really stepped up their build quality, and it kind of is laughable when you get into this WRX after driving that thing. This thing just feels really cheap compared to that. They did a really good job on it. However, I test drove it, and the salesman told me, go ahead and send it. And I sent it, and it just spins all the way through first gear, all the way into second, chirps into third, and I'm like, I forgot how bad front wheel drive sucks. So that's why I went back with the Subaru. Plus, I don't think I could have pulled the trigger on the Hyundai. The Hyundai costs the same, if not more, than the VB chassis, and I just could not justify it. The aftermarket on a Subaru is so much better than the aftermarket on Hyundai. Like you saw what happened with the Genesis and the Kia Stinger. Like, the aftermarket kind of showed up and then it kind of died off just as quickly as it came in. Well, whereas Subarus, you could have, you know, an old bug-eye Subaru and you're still going to be able to find parts for it left and right, up and down, front and back. If somebody brought my uncrashed VA back to me, they're like, hey, here's your VA chassis, it's all fixed, ready to go, we're just going to take this from you now, I would give it up in a heartbeat. I would take my VA back, just because I built that car and I miss it like crazy. But if somebody brought me a stock VA and said, hey, we're going to swap pink slip for your VB, I'm not taking it. I'm going to keep this. So there is your final conclusion. I prefer the VB over the VA now that I've had it and I've driven it and I've owned it for a while. If you put stock beside each other, I'm going to take the VB every single time. If you have really tastefully modified VA and a VB, I would have to look into the modifications, you know, see what I liked about them, because I think they're both very nice looking cars and they're both very good performing cars. And in that case, it would be, you know, kind of on a case-by-case basis. But stock for stock, I'm going to take the VB. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. I appreciate you checking it out. Hopefully this was helpful for you, or you enjoyed it, or whatever. We'll talk in the comments. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know and I'll answer you there. I'll see you guys in the next one.